Yeah, I mean, I think a key milestone for me was being given the opportunity to be in management. So I worked as a coordinator, like I said, I worked as a CRA, but that flip over into management was a huge milestone for me. And it was actually, I kind of fell into it. Somebody recognized kind of a potential, gave me a shot. They actually made a position for me, which was so humbling and so honoring at the same time. And allowed me to really expand my career from that perspective. So that was a fantastic move. I've really, really enjoyed being in leadership. It has its challenges, but it's extremely rewarding. On the challenges side, I think there's quite a few. I mean, particularly in the life sciences side and under pharmaceutical research in particular, the industry is relatively volatile, right? So we have many, many changes that go with the ebbs and flows of everything else in the world right now. But specifically, what kind of drugs are coming to market this year? What are sponsors wanting to spend money on? What are we focusing on in terms of, is there a pandemic? So I think the challenges and ability to adapt is a major challenge. Also, I mean, being a woman in leadership has also been kind of a major challenge throughout my career. I know it may sound kind of cliche, but that's an avenue that I think I've had to learn to understand and navigate, and really enjoy mentoring those that are also trying to come up through leadership as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because in a recent podcast, I know we talked about a similar sort of thing, that it's kind of interesting to watch organizations who have little to no diversity sort of expand, and then think that, hey, look, now all of a sudden I've got, enough perspective. But at the same time, the question I frequently would ask, even as a leader, is how do we know that we really have captured, kind of the real perspective of the people that we're either affecting, or the people that we're trying to most influence.
Oh, absolutely. I will say I'm very happy to be a part of an organization that is extremely diverse in that perspective, open to brainstorming, mentoring, promoting from within. Really, really honored to be a part of an organization that supports it as much as they do.
Excellent. So why don't we talk a little bit about M3 Wake research? So what is it that you do, and what is the organization all about?
Absolutely. So we are a site network. We wholly own and operate all of our sites, and it's quite a few sites across the United States. So we are just within the states right now. We primarily focus in phase 2 and 3 research, but we do some phase 4 as well. We do almost every therapeutic area outside of oncology. However, stay tuned because we're hoping to get into oncology here shortly. And so, I mean, primary focus is bringing new therapies to our lovely participants and patients that absolutely need it. So, our mission that we absolutely live by is how to advance human health and well-being by accelerating getting these drugs to market.
Do you get to use your neuro background at all in that?
To some extent, yeah, we actually run quite a few CNS trials. We have some psych trials as well. So we run the gamut in terms of therapeutic areas. It's really, really exciting. There is never a dull day. And there's also the ability to constantly learn. I think every day is a chance to learn something new. I don't think I've ever had a boring day in my career thus far.
Very good. So, let's talk a little bit about your role. What specifically do you focus on in your role on a day-to-day basis? And then, what does the broader, more strategic look like for your role?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, from my standpoint, how I view my role is how do I empower my teams? I have hired some amazing individuals, and there were many, many amazing individuals that were here prior to me coming on and free Lake Research. So, for me, it is getting out of their way and supporting them how best I can. I'm not here to do their job and micromanage. That is absolutely not my goal. My goal is how best I can support them in doing the best job that they absolutely can. So primarily a support role. My is a service of what can we implement, what can we make more efficient, how can we cut out some of the nitty gritty of the day to day to ultimately get our job done a little bit smoother, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's talk a little bit about the types of clinical trials. You touched on this just a moment ago. What types of clinical trials does M3-Wake research currently conduct? And then also, how do they impact patient care and healthcare outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of goes back to that phase two, three trials again, some phase four, all therapeutic areas. So, we range the gamut. We have the CNS trials, we have endocrine trials, we even have, the healthy patient volunteer vaccine trials coming up here shortly for us for the fall. So, flu, COVID, treatment trials as well. So we really, really run the gamut. It's very dependent upon the site. We have a lot of wonderful physicians and investigators that work directly with us in terms of what their specialty is, what their interest level is, and then obviously what the community best needs in terms of support. So looking at what the diversity is, what the main pain points are within the specific community that our site is located in, and then trying to match that with trials that we can find that will best support that community.
And I mean, I guess the from the diversity standpoint in the clinical trials, how much overall, can you impact that in your role at M3-Wake Research?
Absolutely. In terms of diversity in like participants within the trials, I mean, us offering staff that speak the language or translation services or ensuring that we're working proactively with our sponsors and CROs to ensure that translated documents are provided. That's all absolutely top of mind. So I know getting out into the community, working within these specialty kind of groups within the area, support groups, even whatever we can do to help kind of educate. I know I hear a lot of the time, I don't want to be a guinea pig. Well, completely understandable. And that's absolutely not how we want it to be perceived, because that's absolutely not the case. You come in, you see a physician, you're very well taken care of. Honestly, you don't have to have insurance to come and participate with us. You're paid for your time, you're compensated for your time. So certainly educating about what all is involved in clinical trials really, I think, is the top line supporter when it comes to diversity in clinical trials.
How much do you see? I mean, I've always had this question in the back of my mind because I don't really, I'm not really involved on that end of the clinical trials. So how much do you see people that really are, I guess, between a rock and a hard place in terms of treatment, right? Where they're looking for a treatment where they didn't have one before. How often is it that versus there are other treatments that are out there, but somebody's, maybe involved in a clinical trial because of some other reason?
Absolutely. No, that's a fantastic question. It really depends on the therapeutic area, to be perfectly honest with you. So I worked in GI a lot where maybe they've tried all of the other opportunities out there and it hasn't worked for them. However, that's an extensive part of our informed consent process. So when a participant comes in to see us that very first visit, it's really going over the benefits and potential risks of that and then any sort of alternatives that might be out there for them. And then discussing, what is the best choice for you. And that might even be a discussion with their regular physician as well. What makes sense for this person? What's actually going to be most beneficial? And then, of course, what can their lifestyle accommodate in terms of, maybe their insurance or lack thereof? And then how best can we support that moving forward?
I feel like your answer just somewhat crossed this question as well, but I just want to make sure that we cover it just in case. So, what strategies have you implemented to align clinical teams, processes, and technology to optimize research outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, there's so many potential vendors in the research world, and there's more every time I go to a conference. We're kind of almost bombarded with potential vendors that we could use. So I think for us, it's taking a little bit of a step back and figuring out what vendors and what systems can we utilize to actually standardize across everything. What can we do to just have one system throughout? So that was a big focus for me when I got here, making as much electronic as humanly possible so we're not inundated with paper everywhere and having to archive them. The cost behind that is extensive. And then investing in whatever technology is going to best streamline and support throughout as well. And I don't think we've necessarily perfected that. It's an ongoing thing to see, what could be bigger and better out there. but then also streamlining across the entire organization. We have roughly 18 sites coast to coast right now, and they were all utilizing potentially different systems before.